Hey everybody, welcome back to All Fiction is Fantasy. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Something a little different. I'm sitting outside in the evening. It's a gorgeous evening here, and I decided just to do, there's a crow. The mic might be picking that up. Might be lots of noises. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I wanted to do a more casual video, and this is going to be 4 brief reviews of books that I recently read that were just okay. Maybe one of them was really bad, and one of them was maybe okay plus. But I had a really bad streak of books, and this crow is very angry about something. Probably my dog out somewhere in the yard. So yeah, like I said, I'm not sure how this is going to go. But the books we'll be taking a look at today are the first Hawk and Fisher book from Simon Green, The House of the Toad by Richard L. Tierney, Daughter of the Brightmoon by Lynn Abbey, and finally The Leopard of Poitain by Raul Garcia Capella. So let's start with the worst one. Let's get the worst one out of the way. And that is, unfortunately, Hawk and Fisher by Simon Green. And man, what a waste of a good premise. I was so disappointed in this book because I had such high hopes. The premise sounded so cool. I was told, or not told, but I read that this was kind of a police procedural in Lankmar. And man, did that sound awesome. And I was also excited because the 2 main characters are a husband and wife duo. We have Hawk and Fisher, husband and wife duo. And they are policemen. And they aren't very special policemen. It's not like they're detectives or anything. They're beat cops in a fantasy city. And it's pretty rare for me to find sword and sorcery with a husband and wife pairing. And I thought that sounded really cool. I also love that idea of a police procedural in a fantasy city. So this says, they're the battle-scarred crime busters of a never-ending urban war. Hawk rules the street by broadsword. Fisher, his wife, cracks down on toughs with the deadly dagger that she wields with unflinching skill. Their merciless beat is the rough town misnamed Haven, a dark and murderous place overrun with spellcasters, demons, and thieves. Ready money will buy anything in their town, anything except justice. That requires a magic touch. Ah, so cool. But man, is this book bad. It is so poorly written. It is seriously maybe 2 to 5 steps up from Dick and Jane books in the prose style. And yeah, the characters just never really go anywhere. It's a closed room, closed door, closed room mystery, a sealed room mystery, where Hawk and Fisher are invited to this house to be a bodyguard for this person. That person ends up dying. The wizard, the owner of the house, is a wizard, and he casts a spell completely closing off the house, and then Hawk and Fisher have to figure out who the murderer is. And they're not very good detectives, and they actually comment on that. I thought that was kind of cool. Some of their banter between the 2 characters is kind of interesting, but the chapters are just way too long. One of the chapters is something like 50 pages long, and it just goes on and on and on. They're interrogating everybody involved in the mystery, and a better written book might have them interrogate maybe 1 or 2 of the other characters and then kind of gloss over the others because they don't find any answers. But no, they question every single character in the story, and every single character has no answers. And at the end of a 50-page chapter, the plot hasn't progressed 1 single step because Hawk and Fisher are like, well, I guess that was a waste of time because we didn't find out any answers. And the reader had to read all of this when it could have been glossed over. We could have just been told that that they didn't find out anything. It was really annoying. The prose is really bad. And I wonder if I could find. I should have marked some of the really bad prose, but yeah, it's not good. I'm super bummed. I bought all 5 of the books in the series, and I doubt I'm going to read any more. So that was the first book of Hawk and Fisher by Simon Green. I cannot recommend this series, even though the premise is so cool. Come on, Shorty. This is my dog, Shorty. He likes to sit in my lap when I'm outside. All right, let's go. Next up is The House of the Toad by Richard L. Tierney. So Richard L. Tierney has written some great books. His Simon of Gita Swords Against Caesar series. It's Sword and Sorcery meets Cthulhu in the biblical era. Really cool stories. And we'll be talking more about those later. But this is kind of a modern day, somewhat of a detective slash Indiana Jones style pulp adventure where a character is hired. He is James Carrick, and he is a treasure hunter, and he gets hired by this kind of nefarious rich man who has this secret organization to track down these ancient globes, these ancient orbs that are some kind of alien science magic technology. And the premise is really cool. It mixes in some mythos, and it mixes in some of the Innsmouth look type characters, but they're like frog type people. I think it's Sothogwa is the god that it's probably referencing. The problem with this book is okay. There are some things I liked about it. Let's see, where is the synopsis here? For years, James Carrick has eked out a living looting archaeological treasures for sale on the international black market. Finally, in the ruins of a lost city in Mexico, he makes a discovery for which Midwestern millionaire J. Cornelius Wasserman is willing to pay a small fortune. For Carrick, a bitter American expatriate, it is a chance to retire once and for all from his dangerous profession, and an opportunity to return home to see the woman he left behind years before. But she has inexplicably vanished, and Wasserman is no ordinary collector. The main problem with this book is it has a great premise. It starts off really good. The first quarter, I was super into it. But then it just kind of starts spinning its wheels, and it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't really progress. The worst thing about it is we, the readers, we see the plot devices coming from miles away. We know exactly what is going on, but the main character never does. And it's kind of like, dude, you gotta wake up and look at these people. They're not all human. Something is going wrong. This guy Wasserman is part of some crazy cult. And as the character starts discovering the mystery and starts solving the mystery, we've already put everything together. And so the character is like 5 steps behind the reader, and that just doesn't make for a very interesting mystery. On top of that, the plotting is really dull. And things kind of move at a glacial speed. And because we already know what's happening and we can predict the ending, we can predict what's going on from miles away, it just never really has its footing. It never really sinks its teeth into the reader. And I ultimately left feeling pretty disappointed with The House of the Toad, even though I think Tierney is a pretty great writer, and the prose here is actually pretty good. Next up is from Lynn Abbey. So Lynn Abbey, she was one of the creators of a Thieves' World, I believe. And this is a sword and sorcery style novel that she wrote called Daughter of the Brightmoon. Now, Daughter of the Brightmoon, one of the things that I really loved about this book is the art, the illustrations by Stephen Fabian. Great artist who did some work for from Arkham House. And his art is super cool. And I love illustrated fantasy novels. I wish more novels, especially modern day novels, had these kinds of illustrations. I think they add a lot. This is another book that the first half was fantastic. I was loving it. But then it does one of it goes into this plot device that I really hate. And that's when a character is forced to go into a kind of royal setting, like a castle, and they're kind of forced into leaving their barbarian nature behind, and they have to learn the proper way to dance and dress, and they learn proper etiquette, and they're doing all of this to kind of win the favor of the king or queen or the nobleman. And I really do not like that plot device. And unfortunately, we have this awesome beginning. And the beginning is ramping up in all of this tension. all of this great action, all of this magic and secrecy. And then Brightmoon, she gets to the castle, and it just, the excitement just nosedives into the ground. The plot comes to a grinding halt, and none of the characters are really interesting to carry the drama forward. So this says that priestess, healer, warrior, witch. Brightmoon's a really interesting character. This says, in a desert world, ruled by men, Rifkind, not Brightmoon, Rifkind, that's her name, has always been one apart, a chieftain's daughter. She has learned to wield a sword while all other women are bound by tribal custom to children and the cooking fire. While other women are chattel to their men, chattel, I don't know that word. It's Chattel. I'll have to look that up. Rifkind has been marked by the goddess for her own. When her clan is massacred, Rifkind's essential solitude is only confirmed. Alone, prompted by her deity, she sets forth on a quest for her destiny, a destiny that will shake and shape the world. For Anne Soren waits in his dark tower, knowing that she must come to him in time. So the book begins straight off with Rifkind. She is out in her cave. She kind of has self-isolated herself from her tribe because she just doesn't get along with her father. And she wants to be a swordswoman, and she's great at the sword. Using the sword, she is also a great healer. She's a really cool character. I liked her. I liked her character quite a bit. But she comes back, and her entire tribe is just completely wiped out. And so she heads off onto a quest to find out what happened and to get revenge. And I thought it was going to be this really great kind of revenge plot, and focusing on her being not just a female Conan and not just a Red Sonja, but something different, something with a little more empathy, because she is able to telepathically communicate. She can pick up on auras, and she can pick up on people's vibes. She can communicate with her warhorse telepathically, and that's super cool. A lot of the story is told from inside her head because she is constantly looking at things and reading things empathically. And I really did enjoy that aspect of the story. You get a lot of insight into how she thinks and how she behaves and how she interacts with people on a mental level. But once she gets to that castle, it just, all of the coolness, all of the neat stuff just stops dead in its tracks. And I had a really hard time continuing, and the book never really picks up after that, unfortunately. So that was Daughter of the Brightmoon by Lynn Abbey. And the final book we'll take a look at today is a real curiosity here, and that is The Leopard of Poitain by Raul Garcia Capella. So these are stories about a character that Capella created called Arkell of Argos, and this is basically a collection of glorified fan fiction that Capella wrote mainly for the Amra magazine, which was a Conan fanzine, where published authors and other people would write articles and stories all about Conan. And Capella created this character that existed alongside Conan, but never really interacted with them. Kind of a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. When I kicked off my Sword and Sorcery series, I read a story out of this book. I found it in another anthology, and that story was called Turretal. And I loved Turretal so much. Turretal is kind of this Vietnam vibe, this Vietnam. It feels like a Sword and Sorcery series set in Vietnam, where these warriors are on a raft and they're going down this river, and they get attacked, and then they have to flee into the jungle, and they end up getting chased by these zombie pygmies. And there is this sorcerer who is commanding the zombie pygmies, and the warriors along with Arkell of Argos, they end up defending this pygmy-sized fortress against the zombie pygmies. And it is so awesome because these warriors are huge, and they're just hacking these zombie pygmies left and right. One of them, Redbeard, he declares that, hey, this is so unfair. This isn't even a fair fight. This is like fighting children who don't know how to fight, and just limbs are going everywhere. There's this sorcerer who is trying to gain control of this fortress, and he's firing off these like wind bolts at people. And it's just a really, really cool story. The book itself, though, has some issues, and I think that is the fact that just Capella wasn't really a professional writer, and I don't think these stories went through any kind of editing process. Not to say that they're full of errors, but an editor who could have helped him develop the character and develop his stories a little more. I think under the proper tutelage, these stories could have been really great, but unfortunately, they're just kind of okay. So in the first part of the book, there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stories, and about 4 of those are these little interludes called the Witch's Pebbles, where these 2 witches are kind of watching, they're watching Arkell through a scrying device, and I really liked those. I liked the interludes a lot. Of the main stories, the first one, The Crimson Bell, I liked. It's kind of mysterious. It almost had a Niftaline kind of thing going on, where Arkell gets this magic bell, or a Dilvish the Damned. Arkell gets this magic bell, and he uses it to kind of mesmerize these warriors that he ambushes. Turatal is a fantastic story. And then there is a story called The Caravan to Kuchkims, and that one I did not like at all. The title story, The Leopard of Poitain, is fantastic, and it's basically Capella's take on the Tower of the Elephant of the Great Conan story. Only he kind of, I think he kind of one-ups the Tower of the Elephant. It's this great story where Arkell has to scale this tower, and all of the other thieves in the city are watching him, and there are these great images where these other thieves are sitting on rooftops, and they're watching Arkell scale this tower, and he's like the size of a spider, because this tower is huge. And he's climbing up the tower, and each kind of level has a terrace, and there's traps and stuff. And he finally reaches the top of the tower, and there's this giant like stone lion head. And inside that mouth is a time garden. It's a garden frozen in time. And it's just, yeah, it's a great kind of dungeon crawl story with Arkell going up a tower. Really, really great story. The second book is called The Winds of Akron, and that is a novella. And about half of the novella is really good, and the part that's really good is Arkell gets this flying shield that he can surf on like Silver Surfer, and man, is that ever cool. Unfortunately, it doesn't really develop into any neat action sequences or develop into any other further plot devices. It just kind of stalls out, and I think the novella, even though it's only about 120 pages or so, it could have been chopped in half, and it probably would have been a lot better. So unfortunately, I think this is just kind of a curiosity, but I'm really glad that I own this just because of its place in sword and sorcery history. I think it's a neat curiosity. So yeah, unfortunately, none of the books I read recently could really be recommended, but we do have The Leopard of Poitain by Raul Garcia Capella, and Daughter of the Brightmoon by Lynn Abbey, and The House of the Toad by Richard L. Tierney, and Hawk and Fisher Book 1 by Simon Green. So, all right, you guys, well, hope you enjoyed this casual outside video. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.